Hey guys, welcome into the Bear With Us podcast. I'm Jack. He is Frank. Frankie, week 1 in the books. That's before you know it, we're going to be saying week 16's already here, and the season's going to be over in an instant. Which I don't know. Maybe you feel differently, but if that game that we watched this past Sunday is any indication, good. The season needs to be over as quickly as possible. I'm fucking done already. No. Come on, let's rein it back. And I know that's what people want. They tune into this podcast, Frank, and they're just like, all right, here we go. The boys are going to start freaking out, and they're going to start calling for heads. And while that may be true, we're going to do it rationally and calmly. Isn't that correct, Frank?
Yeah, rationally, yeah. I do think there's going to be some passion within this episode that people may mistake. But can I just say this? I'm not trying to get ahead of anything. We both picked the Bears to win, and they didn't, right? But like, there's like this handful of Packers fans that are like, man, like I know you're pissed, and I'm like, y'all, like, I'm not. Like, had it been a close game, like it was clear early on. I was like, okay, this coaching staff is not the Bears coaching staff was getting severely outcoached, and it was very clear early on. And, I'm thinking of games that like really made me mad against the Packers when Chris Conte decides to blitz and Aaron Rodgers gets his way to the playoffs, throwing a deep bomb to Randall Cobb late in the game. That's a pissed off loss, right? Like this one is just like, oh, we got our ass kicked by the Packers again. Okay. Like, were there things that were annoying that happened throughout the game? Absolutely. And we're going to touch on those, but like upset or mad? No, this is normal. Like this is what's been happening our whole life.
We're not mad. We're disappointed.
But let me say this too, though. Let me say this too, though, Jackie. It's not even disappointed that we lost. Again, we didn't come into this season thinking that the Bears were necessarily a playoff team. Certainly not a Super Bowl team. We have said like if it's playoffs, it's because the NFC is so weak. It's like a 7-8 win Bears team that sneaks in 6-7 seed, right? I feel like that's a ceiling for this team, and really the disappointment spawns from like, you're going to get unpants like that week 1 after all of this talk in the offseason. Like that's where you start to, that's where the disappointment arises. If you lose a close game where Justin and the offense plays good and the defense looks competent and it's 27-24, damn, that sucks. But hey, look, there's progress. That's what we're really disappointed in, is the lack of progress from last year. Granted, in one game, but still, nonetheless, very annoying.
It feels like, okay, so we'll give the breakdown real quick, and then we'll give some stats, things like that, and then I want to get into one of the bigger topics of that came out today, where Jaquan Brisker was talking on a local radio show and giving his thoughts on the boos that were happening in the second half. And Frank and I have a little bit differing, nothing crazy, but I do think that we're kind of in a different space. So we'll get to that, but let's the Packers beat the Bears 38-20. The Packers they made the plays when they had to. Jordan Love, to his credit, I thought he looked really good on third down. Now he finished 15 of 27, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously those numbers off the bat sound pretty good. A lot of those were off broken plays. A lot of those were off Aaron Jones just being the best player on the field.
Yep.
And then on the flip side, Justin Fields, 24 completions out of 37 attempts for 216 yards, a touchdown and a pick, 9 carries, 59 yards, easily led the Bears in rushing, not even close. Frank, let's start with the Bears defense, because I think there will be less to talk about in regards to that. So I just kind of want to get that out of the way. Were there any positives out of this defense? 38 points total, nothing really good out of that, right? But
yep.
They held them to 10 points in the first half, and then obviously things snowballed from there. The turnovers, the poor field position, things like that really did hurt that defense. Were there any positives that stood out to you before we get to some of the more negative things?
And it was 31 points. Justin threw a pick 6 to make it 38.
Correct. That's why I said total.
Okay. Total. I just want to make sure someone was in the comments like, you fucking idiot.
Well, they'll be in there regardless.
Yeah, that's true. positives, I mean, all of the positives were in the first half. The secondary played physical. The linebackers they looked okay. I mean, outside of that, it's tough to say anything else. Like well, before I was going to start digging into some negatives, do you have any other positives outside of that? Like the secondary seemingly, I mean, being the best unit on that side of the ball, but other than that,
my one positive is that Yannick Ngakoue was a solid pickup. Oh, you know what? That is not true. That is not true. I do have another standout performance. Tyreek Stevenson, man, they may have hit something.
He was who I had in mind. Yeah,
kid.
He's physical.
He looks really, really good. Yeah, he played physical. He brought that energy that you want to see from a Bears-Packers rivalry like that. I really liked the way he was playing too. And yeah, again, Yannick Ngakoue did what he came here to do. Got a sack.
Yep.
The only sack that the Bears had all fucking day, which we'll get into that a little bit more. But those were probably my two big ones.
Yeah. So shall we dive into the negatives?
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, I mean,
I was gonna say the one that stands out to me is the fact that Justin Jones was talking a pretty big game up to this, and Bears fans were kind of like, oh, okay. Me personally, I was like, I don't know if I like that. Man, just be quiet. All right. He didn't show up in the stat sheet, Frank, at all. He didn't do anything, which is crazy because as the 3 tech, you're supposed, you're playing the run, you're rushing the passer, you're involved in a lot of plays. It's not like a cornerback who, maybe just gets thrown at a couple times. He should have been involved pretty frequently, and he did absolutely nothing. I thought Zach Pickens looked pretty good as well. DeMarcus Walker made a couple plays. But outside of that, this defensive line we knew was going to be the big issue. They could not stop the run to save their lives. It just did not look very good. And surprisingly, maybe you disagree, maybe you agree. I'm not sure. I'll get your thoughts in a second here, but the linebackers were kind of made the impact that I think Ryan Poles told us Roquan Smith would have when he traded him. They didn't really impact the game a whole lot. What did you think? What were some of the bigger negatives for you?
Yeah, the biggest negative was their inability to stop the run. We had no expectations for a pass rush outside of Yannick Ngakoue. The Bears just aren't built that way. But Andrew Billings, Walker, Dexter and Pickens, these were guys that the Bears brought in to stop the run. And that was when we talked about sort of expectation setting and things. We knew this team wasn't going to be able to get sacks. It was more about like, can the secondary hold up so this team can get coverage sacks? Listen, even when there were times where the secondary looked really good, the defensive line still wasn't getting to them. It's just, or getting to Jordan Love, I should say. So I don't know how much that's even going to rear its head this year. And by that, I mean coverage sacks. So that was the biggest disappointment for me, was the inability to stop the run. I get that Aaron Jones is a really good running back, and he is, and so was A.J. Dillon. That's what we talked about. The Packers' way to victory was them running the ball very well and playing off that, and they did that very well. But Jack, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Eddie Jackson's performance. I mean, my God, that was bad. And like, if this was Tyreek Stevenson, because we saw a handful of games like this from Kyler Gordon last year, and we said, you know what, he's a rookie, let him do his thing, let him go through his bumps and bruises. That can't be a thing from your veteran safety. It just can't, because Brisker played competent. The linebackers, while I agree with you, didn't play great, didn't have this huge impact. I didn't think they played poorly. Sanborn made a couple of plays. Edmonds made a couple of plays. Edwards got beat a couple times in coverage, but you're matched up against these skill guys. It's going to happen every now and then. I wasn't, the most upset about it, but Eddie Jackson just going back to what it was prior to last year. And so that was very, very disappointing. But I mean, all in all, Jack, giving up 31 points to your division rival in week 1, when you look around the league and you're seeing guys like Jalen Hurts get locked up, Burrow get locked up. We even saw Josh Allen on Monday night get locked up. And these guys weren't playing necessarily powerhouse defenses. And I thought someone made a really good point. They were like, week 1, it can be a little bit fluky. Not to say that the Bears' loss was, but just generally speaking, where defenses look a little bit better because they're not predicated so much on timing like offenses were. So it's like Burrow threw 93, who fucking cares? Let it keep going. That timing's going to get, that rhythm's going to get there. It didn't stop the Packers from dropping 31 on the Bears. You know what I mean? Like, and to your point, it was all like broken plays and sloppiness and just, there were the first touchdown Jordan Love threw, very good read, very good throw. Like we had a couple like that, and even the one to Torrey was another really good throw. Like he had a few that were like, oh, this guy's a competent quarterback. But overall, it would it just felt like the Bears were. I mean, how many? Again, we're back to this like Mel Tucker shit. Like people were wide open on some of these plays, and it's like, what is happening? Even because if you were just running a bland shell cover 2, there would be someone in the general vicinity, and there were just times where it wasn't. And I'm like, what was drawn up here? What exactly happened? And that happened at least. No, I don't want to say at least. It wasn't like the whole game, but it happened like 3 or 4 times, which is too much at this level.
What was most frustrating for me in regards to the defense, and we can switch over to the offense after this, was just the fact that Jordan Love, he made some nice throws. You got to give him some credit. That touchdown throw that he threw to I think it was the second one, to Romeo Doubs, who just he put it in a perfect spot.
That's what I was thinking of. The second one was to Doubs. Yeah. That was a really good throw.
I mean, you can't do it any better than that. My biggest issue is it never looked difficult. It never looked difficult for Jordan Love. Like the throws that the Bears are lucky he only dropped 31 points on him, because there were some throws that he left out there that he should have made. So, Packers fans laughing at the Bears fans, as they should. I'm not to the point where I'm like, okay, Jordan Love, I think he's closer to what you were talking about last week, where you said you don't want him to be super terrible, super shitty, because then they're going to play themselves into, Caleb Williams or Drake May or something like that. I think he is going to finish probably closer to the middle of the pack when he plays. And it's what was frustrating, Frank, for me was if this Bears defense played competent to just the level of average, they probably keep this much closer of a game. I really didn't think Jordan Love played all that well. And he just, LaFleur was able to make the adjustments he needed to, and Jordan Love executed. But I think a big part of that was just the fact that there was no pass rush at all. And again, Frank and I talked about this all offseason. We were not expecting this to be the Philadelphia Eagles, right? We did not expect this to come in and them to have 7 sacks on Jordan Love. But it goes back to our conversations last year with Alan Williams, and we'll touch on the coaching staff overall in a little bit later. But where was the creativity? Where were the stunts? Where were the extra rusher? I'm not saying you have to send the house, but 4 guys they weren't getting it done. They weren't beating anybody. Nobody was doing anything. And each time they rushed the passer, it was strictly matchup for matchup. There was no stunts. There was no creativity. There was no movement. There was no denting the pocket from the inside like they talked about. This is why we drafted Dexter and Pickens. We're going to dent the pocket from inside. That'll make it easier for the edge rushers, DeMarcus Walker, Dominique Robinson, Ngakoue. It'll make it easier for them to get over the edges. None of that happened. And I'm not I get it. A lot of people were like, well, that's not how this defense wins. You don't want to send extra blitzers. You have to do something.
Yeah.
You can't just let Jordan Love just stand back there and just pick you apart. You can't do that. You have to try. And why not try something different? What you were doing wasn't working. And they just refused to make the adjustments. They refused to get away from their game plan. And I think we kind of saw that across the board for this entire Bears team. And we'll get to that when we talk about the offense. But that was probably my biggest frustration with the defense. It was like, just play competent, and this game is a lot closer.
Yeah, it was funny. I was going to make a joke and ask if you were talking about Luke Getsy or Alan Williams. But no, I mean, last thing, I was having a conversation with a friend who's a Packers fan, and he was like, look, I didn't think Jordan Love looked like overly spectacular. And because what I was telling him was, I was like, look, if this is the what you're getting out of Jordan Love every week, a guy who can, first of all, you have to buy into what LaFleur is selling, and I don't see why you couldn't after that game. He cooked up a good game plan. He had them prepared and ready, and Jordan Love executed to a solid performance. Because what I told him, I was like, man, I mean, if you give any NFL quarterback that amount of time, they're going to do what, at the very least, what Jordan Love did, if not more. Like, and that's not to downplay what he did. It's just he had so much time in that pocket. And to your point, that just shows you how severely out-coached Alan Williams was in comparison to Matt LaFleur. Because Matt LaFleur, I mean, you saw from the first half to the second half what he did to build on what he was doing. They had a game plan in place. They were running the ball well. They started to bootleg. They started to do misdirection. They started to do a lot of crossing patterns that confused the fuck out of Eddie Jackson quite a few times. And then Jordan Love made the right decisions. He did what he was supposed to do. Matt LaFleur came in and had them boys ready to go. Where on the flip side, on both sides of the ball, and again, just like you said, we'll get to the offense, but especially on the defensive side of the ball, they were just ill-prepared. And, I think a lot of that is the in-game adjustments on Alan Williams' part. Just like you said, you have to bring blitzes. You have to show at least some sort of exotic coverages. He's coaching as if he has Brian Urlacher and Julius Peppers and like these guys who can just beat people just because they're who they are. They don't have that. So unless you have some level of, creativity, what exactly are you doing with this defense? And the thing is, I know that this team isn't the most talented still, especially on that side of the ball. Not counting the secondary. I'm talking the front seven. The linebackers are good. The front four is not. But think about what Vic Fangio had to deal with in 2015 when he was first DC. You saw it. You saw something. You saw what he was cooking up there. He had competence. You know what I mean? Like you saw guys who looked like they knew what they were doing. And I'm watching a defense that looked just like Mel Tucker's defense when they were historically bad. It's like these guys aren't even in the right places half the time. And I think that's the frustrating part. Again, it's 1 week, so people who are saying like, well, there goes I think that's a bit much. The frustration seeps from the OCs because we saw the same stuff last year as well. You were expecting to see something more. I wasn't expecting the Bears to score 40 and give up 10. You know what I mean? I'm not expecting this grand jump from both sides of the ball, but to not look competent on either side for a vast majority of the game, that's a huge negative for these offensive for both coordinators.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It was just you saw nothing to really get you excited, to make you believe that anyone had taken a jump. And one of the things we talked about when it came to the coaching staff, because we did talk about who might be on the hot seat. That was one of our episodes. Go check that out on YouTube or wherever you listen to this podcast. But we talked about how the coaching staff, we're going to really get to see, is this the most talented roster in the NFL? Of course not. But can they develop anyone? Who can they look at and develop into maybe not even a star player, but just like an above average player? I would say that really nobody took that jump that was super noticeable. Like Jaquan Brisker, I thought played like he did last year.
Yep.
I would say Kyler Gordon is probably closest to that, but he got hurt and now has a hand in a wrap, and he's a nickel corner, which in this defense is super important, but he's not always going to be on the field, which sucks. Your veteran free agents that you brought in, like you said, they didn't play terrible, but they didn't really make an impact. And then really none of the guys that you drafted did a whole lot. And so what exactly is Alan Williams bringing to the table other than just giving up points to the opposing defense or the opposing offense? Speaking of offense, Frank, I think we've danced around it enough. Let's get to it. Just abysmal stuff right there. I would say that evoked memories of 2019, the first week of the season when they played the Packers. Granted, it was not nearly as bad as what we saw, them only scoring 3 points, but I would just say ultimately disappointing in the sense because you just expected something completely different than what we got. Let's start with we'll start on the good side and we'll bring it back to the negatives. What positives stood out to you from the offense? If any, I should say.
The Roschon Johnson is really good at football. I had a buddy tell me that he thought he would get the majority of the run share by like week 6 or 7, and I was like, man, do you really think so? And goddamn, I think he's right. I think it may even be earlier than that. So that was one positive. I don't know if it was a positive because I didn't think he had a good game, but I liked a good amount of what I saw from Justin Fields. I feel like people went crazy as if he had an awful game. He threw for over 200 yards. Jackie, I don't want to sound condescending towards people, but when I hear people say or see people on Twitter and people tell like he just can't read a defense, and I'm like, are we watching the same thing? Because I'm with my eyeballs watching him go through his progressions, and then he was taking the check down, and I said, hey, listen, that's progress right there. Now we can isolate screenshots and things and even like all 22. He missed some. But I'm not worried about missing 1, 2, 3 of that. That happens to literally every quarterback every single Sunday. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the overall game plan that didn't allow this offense to continue to have that chance. If we're talking about 5, 8, 10, 12 times where Justin isn't pulling the trigger, okay, now we have a problem. If we're talking about 2 or 3, people are literally are isolating 2 or 3 plays and like, yup, he can't read a defense. Dude, this happens all the time. We see some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time misreads. And it's not even necessarily always a misread, not to get into the weeds of everything, but that may not even be in your progression as a quarterback. That could be you already look there and then the defense knows it so that now the safety's sagging off to go to the next read. You know what I'm saying? Like things are happening here. Granted, those ones, he clearly missed those reads. He looked at it, didn't pull the trigger. Totally get it. But especially in the first half, he looked solid. Second half, it started to unravel a bit. That pick was atrocious. The fumble, yeah. I'm not as bothered by quarterback fumbles. When guys are making plays, it is what it is. Now, if you're getting sacked in the pocket, yes, you have to hold on to the ball, but he was trying to scramble and the defender made a good play. But overall, again, like looking around the league, and I know the retort has been, well, these guys, they've already proven themselves, but like, if I told people like after week 1 that he outperformed Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, they'd be like, well, he had a fucking great game, didn't he? And it's like, no, like a lot of quarterbacks had a pretty bad week 1, and I wouldn't categorize what Justin did as bad. He felt handcuffed. So before we sort of get into that, Jackie, did you have any other positives on the game?
Yeah, I'd say you Roschon Johnson was going to be a guy I touched on as well. I thought Khalil Herbert played a lot better just in the passing game than I thought I expected him to. He made some really nice catches. I was impressed by that. Cole Kmet, 5 catches, 44 yards. Not the impact you maybe expected, but for a guy who was so hot and cold as he has been throughout his career, getting off to a nice start I thought was really good. Seemed like a good safety valve. And then Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, solid game.
Looks back. I mean, listen, we're going to get to the other wide receiver in the negatives, obviously. Both of them, I should say. But if Darnell Mooney can give you that, 4 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown every other week, that I'd take that. I think he looked like he was back. He made some really nice grabs. So that was encouraging. And then one last thing I wanted to touch on the positives before we get into the good stuff. I like that they used Tyler Scott in the pass game. I like that they did that. I kind of wish he'd gotten more of an opportunity to play, maybe take a couple deep shots here or there. But as we'll get to, that obviously wasn't in the game plan. But I did like that they were kind of already getting him into the game plan more than obviously we saw last year with Velus Jones, who it took a while for him to sort of get used. Speaking of Velus, he was a no-go. He did not play. So great. Frankie, let's talk about the negatives.
Oh, wait, can I one more positive,
Absolutely.
Jackie? Darnell Wright looked pretty solid at right tackle. Darnell Wright looked really solid at right tackle.
According to PFF, and take that for what you will. I know some people really like it, some people don't really care for it. Whatever. It's hard to use sort of metrics to gauge how an offensive line did, but he was the only offensive lineman that graded out positive for the Bears. So that's a win. That's a win, right? Especially when you have Jalen Carter having a nice game for the Eagles, and people obviously pointing to that. So yeah, good call out on Darnell Wright.
Yeah, that was the last positive. That's the only other thing that I wanted to talk about on the positive. Can we, Jackie, before we delve in?
So just to clarify, the only positives were a good game, average, better than bad game from your starting quarterback.
Yes.
Your running back one can catch.
Yes.
Your fourth round running back is good at football.
Yes.
Your first round pick played well.
Yeah.
And then
your starting tight end was average.
that you paid money to was average. Your fourth round wide receiver that you traded up for got involved.
Yeah.
And
yes.
and then your wide receiver 2, 3, whatever that you haven't extended yet had a nice game.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Just want to
I wanted to do a quick exercise, Jackie. I'm just gonna ask you a question. It's not a trick question. They're not trick questions. Who is the best receiver on the Detroit Lions?
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown got 9 targets. Who is the let me see. Who is the best receiver on the Jaguars?
Well, right now it's Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley got 11 targets. Who is the best receiver on the Buccaneers?
I would have to say it's either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. They got a couple of good ones.
Yeah, Mike Evans got 10 targets. Jackie, as we delve into the negatives here, the reason why I even talked about Justin Fields in the positive section, even though it wasn't like a great game, it was an average game, is because that was in spite of Luke Getsy's play calling. I asked you those questions, and I didn't know what they were. I was literally going up box scores. I didn't look at that beforehand, just because I knew they would be pretty high, because that's what good offensive coordinators do. They get their best weapons involved. And the retort to that seems to be, well, Justin didn't throw him the ball. Again, I know he missed him on that deep dig route. He missed DJ one, so that's 1 extra target, right? But you look around the league, and good offenses, or even average offenses, There isn't, hey, DJ's your second or third read right here. No, there are plays through drives that you're like, you're seeing him and you're letting it rip. And if it's not there, you can run or you just throw it away. There was none of that. Like, we saw, like, Chicago fans, don't be fucking dummies. We saw this with Brandon Marshall. That was the whole offense for a full year half the time. Was like, hey, if he's open, you throw it to him. If it's not, just scramble and make something happen, Jay. Like, that's, and now granted, the rest of, or around that was a bad offense, but that concept of just getting your best players involved, that's just common sense. And I mean, I was trying to think, Jack, and this outside of the 10 games in which Nagy looked like he was a competent offensive play caller, when is the last time that the Bears had like a season where it was like they had an identity and like the offense was in rhythm? There was like a flow to the offense. Was it not year one Trestman?
Yeah, probably pretty close to that.
And then before that, like who the fuck knows when?
Right.
Besides like having a good run game, but before that, but like that's my whole point, Jack. This looks like that again. Like the like, and I texted you this, and I think it made sense to you, but to flesh out a little bit more, I texted you. I was like, it feels like Luke Getsy scripts whole games because nothing he does makes sense for the actual time in which it's called. The Bears are down 31-14 and it's like a 2nd and 9. And he's like, right now is the fucking quarterback draw, baby. What? And there was like a 3rd and 19. It's like, here's the bubble screen. And I feel like he has these plays where like, well, this play, when we do it, it's going to be because it's going to be a 3rd and 2 and we're going to catch them off guard. We're going to line up in this formation, and nothing he does makes sense. It's very, very weird. So like, not even counting like, hey, none of those bubble screens were to DJ Moore, who can actually make a play with the ball in his hands, but it's like the times that they're being called too. It's I don't know, dude. He's a very weird play caller, and I didn't think
bad. Just call what it is.
Oh no,
it's he's just bad. He's just bad at what he does. He doesn't know what he's doing, and if the game plan truly was, hey, we're going horizontal, right? We don't know. The offensive line hasn't practiced a lot. Nate Davis, we're not quite sure where we're going to get there. Lucas Patrick hasn't played at all in the preseason. Let's take some of the pressure off the down the field stuff, the stuff that will take longer, because we don't want a repeat of what happened in Cleveland in Justin Fields' rookie season. And let's stretch out the defense and we'll go horizontal. Okay, why is Equanimeous St. Brown not playing? Yeah. Why is your best blocking wide receiver not playing? Why do you have Chase Claypool out there who looks like he would rather have been anywhere else than that game? And granted, you know what? Hold on. Bears fans, we need to talk about something real quick when it comes to Chase Claypool, because I just kind of thought of something. You know how mad we are about that game plan? Imagine being Chase Claypool, walking in that day and being like, all right, baby, here we go. What's the plan, coach? And he's like, we're going horizontal and you're blocking all game. I'd be fucking pissed too. I'd be like, nah, I want the ball. I'm a wide receiver. You brought me in with the second round pick that turned into basically a first round pick. I want the ball. Throw me the ball. Maybe that's why Chase Claypool didn't want to be out there on Sunday. Frankie?
That's fucking hilarious. No, I mean, it's Jack. It's one of those things where, Justin says it at the podium, like, yeah, that just was the game plan to get horizontal. But I don't think the Bears have the personnel to do that. They just don't have yak guys. Like DJ Moore is the only yak guy that they have.
And they threw him the ball twice.
On
one slant.
And one of them was. I mean,
real quick, I'm going to cut you off because I need to say this before I forget. This is the thing that pisses me off with this Bears offense, and it has for the last few years, even going back to when Matt Nagy was doing it. They would do the things that we would be begging them to do once, twice. They'd give you a little sneak preview of it. Here's that slant that you guys want really bad that works every single fucking time. Every other offense in the league uses. When they do it, it works. We're going to do it. Boom, it worked. And then they never do it again. And then we're right back to being like, where did it go? Where is the pocket movement? If your offensive line is so fucking bad that you have to go horizontal, why aren't you moving the pocket? Why aren't you doing some creative things? Oh, right, because you can't, because you're bad at your job.
Yep. Yeah, no, and the thing that I was just going to say was, not only do they not have the personnel to do it, they weren't good at it last year either. It wasn't like, yeah, this is our bread and butter and we can get the offense going.
They don't have one. They don't have a bread and butter.
Well, no, but the thing is, Jack, that's where you're sadly mistaken. Our bread and butter is being able to run the ball down 3 scores.
You're
and Matt LaFleur is on record praising Luke Getsy for sticking with the run and just shortening the game, letting everyone go home a little bit early. It's really weird because remember what we used to say about Matt Nagy was, why did he go away from the run? Like they ran the ball really well that day, but even with the stats showing that, it's still like there was no rhythm to it. He would just call a few and be like, all right, get the fuck off my back. I ran the ball. Now it's time to run my offense.
Right.
Getsy is sort of the same way. It's like, why aren't you building off of the run? There was very little play action. There was very little RPO. There was very little misdirection. There was very little rolling Justin Fields out. He didn't move the pocket at all. It was just, it was a very bland, scared game plan. And, again, the retort in the negative towards Justin Fields has been, well, he just doesn't trust him. Jack, you tell me if this sounds like not trusting a young quarterback. Justin Fields said, it was either right after the game or it was at some point during the week, but this is on record of him saying, oh, well, me and Luke have had really good sessions during film, and I've gotten so comfortable with the playbook that during 2-minute drills, he only calls the first play, and I call all the rest of the plays because I know we're on the same page there. And that was what he did when he threw the touchdown to Darnell Mooney. He made checks. He literally flipped the whole play around and switched sides, shifted the offensive line to call out the blitz. He called out the mic. He throws a dart to Darnell Mooney. That doesn't sound like someone not trusting their quarterback. What I think the problem is, and this isn't sticking up for either of them. Again, Justin had to make better decisions in certain moments. He should have had a better game. But Luke Getsy has to not play scared when you have your quarterback who can do things like this. I think Luke Getsy is scared, what you mentioned, he's scared of the offensive line. He's trying to play around them, but playing horizontal is not the way to do that. This isn't fucking rocket science, dude. You still have to play to your players' strengths. What can Justin Fields do if he doesn't progress at all for the rest of his career? He's an elite runner of the football. We saw very little of that. And he's an elite deep ball thrower. We saw none of that. Two throws went over 10 yards. And, again, people keep trying to throw that back to Justin. Very little of these plays were drawn up to be that way. These were a lot of bubble screens, a lot of quick outs, a lot of little. Let me say, the one thing I did love about the screen game was the running back screens. Those were fucking done phenomenally. Those are the handful of times they did that. That was very good. They like that to me is adjusting to what the defense is doing well. They have a good pass rush. You're playing into that level of aggression, but he didn't do that enough. He kept going side to side. And then all you saw as the game progressed were these Green Bay corners move up and up and up and not make them go back by stretching the field. So again, Luke Getsy, to me, was the biggest negative in that game. And we haven't even fucking delved in. And, to not make this episode 3 hours long, I think the other thing that we have to touch on, Jackie, the offensive line. Again, we're saying that Luke can't be scared of them, but negating that point, they were fucking atrocious. They were really, really bad. And, not picking out the X's and O's and doing different things, or let me say, without doing that, the overarching thing for me, because we haven't really mentioned his name once yet, is what this falls on, outside of the coordinators not adjusting in-game and coming up with bad game plans. Both sides of the ball, as well as special teams who gave up way too many yards on kick returns and punt returns. This was all three phases of a team who were unprepared. Jackie, who does that fall on?
Matt Eberflus.
That falls on
CEO.
Matt Eberflus, the CEO of all three. He did not have his team ready. We hear hits principles all the time. Again, if we're losing a close game or a game that maybe gets a little bit out of hand late because Love makes a few phenomenal throws, but we're seeing a physical team. We're seeing a team who is playing competent football on all three phases. All right, cool. They have more talent than us. We can chalk it up to something like that. To be ill-prepared for a game that the Bears social media team tweets, oh, it's a new era? Jackie, that's fucking embarrassing. How are you Matt Eberflus and you get back on the plane and you're like, yup, on to Tampa? That's crazy to be that to look that incompetent on all three sides of the ball. That falls on him.
To have to go back to the drawing board week one when you have an entire offseason of being able to plan.
Because Jack, what can you build on with this?
No, your first game of the season can never be a throw.
You just burn the tape.
Just throw it out.
You burn the tape. You look at nothing. You look at the mistakes with the offensive line. You try to correct them. And let me say as well, with Jackie, because this is something that I texted you. The offensive line was awful. This isn't me caping for them. This isn't me, falling on the shield for them. But they didn't have a lot of time to gel. They didn't play very much. That the new OTA rules, the preseason injuries. Okay. I'm still upset with them. They need to play better. I'm not going crazy until about week 4 or week 5. If we're still seeing this, then I'm going to start talking about Ryan Poles' decision, the scheme itself a little bit more as it pertains to helping the offensive line, things like that. But outside of just saying they had a bad game, I'm not ready to fucking cut Cody Whitehair. You know what I mean? Like, people have been having astronomical takes about the O-line. Yeah. And again, they played bad. Don't get it twisted. But I'm not the grand proclamation after week 1, because how silly would we look saying, we got to fucking cut Cody Whitehair and even start looking into trades for Justin Fields. Like, now the Jets need a quarterback and this and that. And then next week we go out and beat Tampa 41-10. Luke Getsy makes the proper adjustments. And you're like, you know what? Maybe we're the squad. Maybe we're I don't want to get into every single week, having these grand things. But I wanted to make sure that I was on record saying that.
I will say, in regards to Ryan Poles, I'm going to start there because I do think he deserves some criticism, and he's not getting away scot-free off this. And his first-round pick, really good, awesome. We were a little upset, again, that he didn't draft a center. And Lucas Patrick does not look good. He did not look good on Sunday. Again, he didn't. But that's also a problem. Right? If you're not practicing, if you're not playing, that's kind of a problem as well. The whole Nate Davis situation. I don't want to speak to that. We don't know what's going on there. Clearly, it's something off the field. We don't have any information on that, but he obviously did not have a good game at all either. That falls on Ryan Poles. This offensive line, he did not provide enough quality depth. And granted, we understand. We went into this offseason, you and I, understanding he is not going to fix everything on this team in one offseason. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. There is not enough resources. The resources he did invest in didn't really provide as much of an impact as obviously you would hope. Like you said, Darnell Wright looked really good. That's awesome. You traded the first overall pick for DJ Moore. Get him fucking involved in the game. I'm looking right now at the Titans box score, because they went out and made a pretty big addition at wide receiver. 13 targets for DeAndre Hopkins. 13 targets. He's the only guy on that offense besides Derrick Henry. Wide receiver wise, that the Saints knew they're going to DeAndre Hopkins. Ryan Tannehill, sure, he threw 3 interceptions, but he was throwing the ball to their best player. That you have to do that.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson had what? 9 targets?
315
something crazy
yards.
like that? 150 yards? Like, you have to get you can't trade the first overall pick for a wide receiver who looked good in the preseason, who all we heard about was the connection between him and Justin Fields. And 1, 2, that's all they were tweeting out, right? Bears social media tweeting out 1, 2 equals 6. And then throwing the ball 2 fucking times on one drive. That's the thing that gets lost in this, Frank. That was on one drive.
It sure was.
They didn't get him involved outside of that. You can't do that. You can't. You just can't do that and expect to win. Puka Nacua, the 5th round pick from BYU, played for the Rams on Sunday, Frank. And he had
Brigham Young.
He had what? I think it was 11 targets. No, I'm sorry, 15 targets.
Oh my God.
15 targets for a 5th round rookie who, granted, he converted a lot of those and looked really good. But why is it that the Rams, Sean McVay, can get more out of a 5th round rookie than Luke Getsy can out of a guy, a proven veteran?
Yep.
We all had just such high expectation. He was supposed to be A.J. Brown this year, right? That's what Bears fans expected. That's what you and I expected. And it just 2 targets. None of the other stuff matters to me.
Yep.
Because it all goes back to not getting your best player involved, not putting your guys in positions to win. And that is what is so disappointing. Matt LaFleur, man, he was having a rough first half. Let's call it what it was. Yeah, they scored 10 points, but he went away from his best player in Aaron Jones. And everybody's like, what the fuck are you doing? He comes back out in the second half. They're talking to him. They're like, what happened with Aaron Jones? And he's like, we got to get him the ball. And what is it? They got him the fucking ball, and they scored 20 points in the second half, or 21 points in the second half.
Jack, it's one of those things that I feel like we've dealt with our whole lives. Like, we haven't had the best offenses to watch in Chicago, but we've had solid. I mean, just like they're NFL players, so like you're gonna have at least a couple that are really good weapons to have on offense, whether it's your running back, couple receivers, whatever. And we consistently get these offensive coaches who are like want to outsmart people. All I ask.
Don't get me started on the outsmarting shit. I'll let you talk.
I'm not going to be long, Jackie. All I ask is that we get offensive minds who maximize and capitalize on the talent that they have. It's about out execution. You don't have to outsmart everyone all the time. Like, look at what Mike McDaniel's doing. And I understand he has two top 5 or top 10 receivers, but he's getting them in open space and getting them the ball. Could you imagine at a press conference if he gets Tyreek Hill 2 targets and Jalen Waddle 3, and he's like, well, we really thought we could use them as decoys to get our tight end the ball? No, he has weapons. He's utilizing them. Like, Jackie, I knew, I didn't text this to you because I didn't want to come across strong too early, but I knew Luke Getsy was in over his head that game, and I knew we were fucked when he tried to do a tight end sneak on the first drive on 3rd and 1. Because this is where this is coming from, though. What are you doing? You have 3 really good running backs, and you have 2 chances at a quarterback sneak, and you fucking motion your quarterback out to get Cole. Has Cole Kmet ever received a snap in the NFL before? Like, who are you trying to outsmart right now? What the fuck? That made me very. It's very rare that I get really upset. Like, once you have kids, I feel like you get this level of zen and maturity and things. I almost threw my remote at my TV because I was like, I can't live with another year this way. I can't live with another year of this Matt Nagy bullshit of just like doing these weird things to try to outsmart the defense. Yeah, it's asinine.
Yep. It's and so real quick, we have some breaking news on this podcast. That it won't be breaking when it comes tomorrow. Tariq Cohen signing with the Panthers practice squad.
Oh wow.
So good for him.
Good for Tariq. Yeah, that's good.
Good for him coming back. That's awesome. Anyways, back to the shitty Bears. Yeah, the outsmarting thing, I think. So this kind of, I can wrap this into the Brisker stuff, and then we can get to our points, our picks for week 2. Jaquan Brisker was on a local radio station, 670 The Score, who was talking in the afternoon show, or the midday show, basically saying, why, it sucks that the Bears fans booed us. They should have given us a chance. Frank, I listen, he has to understand that Bears fans were not necessarily booing the performance of that team. If this was week 1 of a new, of a new regime and everything was new, you expect some growing pains, fine. I doubt there's boos. But he has to understand it's your biggest rival. You're at home. You scored 6 points in the first half, and you come out and you run dog shit plays. Your wide receiver that you traded a second-round pick for just refuses to block anybody, and it gets a play blown up. The offensive line can't fucking block anybody. Yeah, there's going to be some frustration, and I felt frustration because of a play that you just talked about, the 3rd and 1 tight end bullshit run. You know who ran that a lot, Frank? Matt Nagy. And what was he doing in Kansas City this week when he lost to the fucking Detroit Lions and people were like, my God, how did the Chiefs lose this game? It's because Matt Nagy's the offensive coordinator. No Bears fan was shocked by that. And seeing that play, Frank, I'm not even kidding. It made my skin crawl because it's like, oh, here we go. Another guy who thinks he's smarter than everybody else in the fucking room. Instead of, why is Donta Foreman? Why did you sign him? If you're not going to use him, and that's his thing. That's what he's here for, to run that play.
Yeah. Well,
but you also talked about it a little bit, and real quick, this whole offense that Luke Getsy talked about, it's predicated on the run. Everything goes through the run, and it sets up everything else. He didn't use it. They ran the ball a lot, and it didn't do anything. It didn't lead to any of the play action.
Didn't open anything up.
Lead to any deep shots to Tyler Scott. This is the disconnect that I'm having, Frank. Like there has to be something going on if you recall, when Ryan Poles got hired, and then he was allowed to select his head coach. Right?
Yep.
It was Matt Eberflus. You and I were like, we kind of like it. We kind of don't. We wanted Dable. It is what it is. And then we find out that they had the same agent. And everybody's like, I don't know about this. Well, let's see what happens. But there has to be some disconnect because this whole offseason, man, we're going line by line. Ryan Poles, the decisions he's making, the guys he's drafting, the guys he's signing, a lot of it made sense. It still does make sense. But then the coaching staff is just unable to do anything with it. I don't understand where this disconnect is coming from.
Yeah. And again, the 2 most recent examples that you can see of coordinators in this town that had to work with minimal talent was 2015 Vic Fangio. And again, he made that defense look solid. They weren't, I think they were like top 15 but like to even get them there was crazy. And then even thinking of Sean Desai. Look at what he did. There was a lot of there was a lot of like the same players from a defense that was worse than that, but it was like, you can see what he was doing. It was stunts, it was blitzes, it was, post-snap coverage mixes. And it was all types of different things that he did. Like Alan Williams as Mel Tucker, dude. Like it's just bland and everyone knows what's happening and he's not doing anything to adjust. But again, to your biggest point, this comes down to Eberflus right now. It's hard for me to say too much about Ryan Poles because this was really his first offseason. There was so much dead money in his first year. It's like, what can you do? We knew that was a year in which he couldn't do much. Yeah, you're shedding a bunch of contracts. Exactly.
And
Robert Quinn. Yeah. Yep. And I like a lot of the moves that he's made. So they still have this year to develop and beyond, obviously. But again, this coaching staff has to pull their weight and show us that they're actually getting these players better. Or that that these players are a scheme fit, that their scheme is something that, can work in this league, and neither side of the ball has. And this is why we gave Justin Fields so much credit last year. It wasn't because Luke Getsy was dialing up plays and he was executing them. Justin Fields put this team on his fucking back. The only thing he did was say, you know what? Maybe we don't have to keep you in the pocket so long. Like we'll start rolling you out, and if your first couple options aren't there, just go. And we just saw him turn into Superman. Like Luke Getsy didn't just become this great play caller for 8 weeks last year. No. They just relied on what Justin could do phenomenally on a football field, and he did what he does. Like, so we didn't see, I don't know. It's just, it's very annoying to have that carry over and see no progression. But again, it was week 1. If this turns around and we go on like a 6-game win streak, we're going to sound silly now. But I think in this moment, right here, right now, we have every right to be frustrated with this team and with this coaching staff.
Absolutely. Because again, it's just the lack of any sort of development. Everything looked the same. And that can't happen when you do have roster upgrades, because this is a better roster than last year. You can't tell me which way or the other about that. This is a better roster. But again, I've been talking about it for not over a year. I guess it's coming up on a year, because it was started in like, what was it, week 3 or whatever that Patriots game happened. And I remember telling you
5, I think, whatever it was.
Yeah, some questions about this coaching staff, and you were like, I don't know. It's it's a little early for that. And granted, it still might be. But let me say it this way: no one on this team answered any of the questions.
Yes, exactly.
And makes me feel comfortable about anybody moving forward. They didn't sway me at all. There's nobody who you talked about the hot seat. Alan Williams should. He's probably the closest to it. He did nothing to make me feel any sort of difference in that in that regard. Well, Justin Fields, granted, he doesn't look better either. And that was just disappointing. We don't know if he's better. We don't know if he's worse, because they didn't let him do anything. It's mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing.
Agreed. And last thing, Jackie, from me, and I don't know if you want to get into the picks after that.
It's Bears-Packers, guys. We're going to be talking about this and it's the first game of the season. We're going to be going for a while on this.
But
that's why it's Bear With Us podcast for a reason, okay?
Exactly. But you brought up Jaquan Brisker on the radio and everything, and the only thing that it related in my brain was, because either side of the coin, boo, don't boo, I really don't care. But the biggest reflection on Matt Eberflus was this team was down 17-6, and they were having a fucking funeral on the sideline. I can only harken back to one good coach in our lifetime, Jack, and I know we had our problems with. I don't want to dive into the weeds and disparage him. When did that ever happen on a Lovie Smith sideline? And I'm not advocating to bring the guy back or anything, but I'm just saying, like, that was a professionally ran organization from top to bottom when Lovie was here. We were down 17-6, and it looked like our players were going to cry on the sidelines, Jack. Again, that to me is were the captains? Were the assistant coaches? Were the coordinators? Where's the CEO to get these guys? Even if it's him just ripping into guys, why are you sulking right now? Why are you looking this way? Because even during the Jay Cutler era, we saw some guys getting it. Remember Pernell McPhee getting in his face like, "Hey, buddy, this game ain't fucking over. Like, let's pick it the fuck up." He didn't that week, but he had a better week the week after. But the point that I'm making is, Jack, that game was still well within reach, and we're seeing this team just like give up on themselves. That is a reflection of a poor coach. You see that at every level of the game. That attitude is a reflection of the coach. I'm thinking back to I'm still in youth sports now. Like, I see coaches who spread nothing but positivity with their kids, and they'll be hard on them when they have to be. And if they get down in the game, these same kids are the coach didn't even have to say anything. It's oh man, like, we still got this, because coach, and they're not necessarily saying it in those words, but it's like, because coach has instilled this in us, we're going to continue to big each other up, and we're going to continue to go. We're not going to get down on ourselves. We're not going to let this pile on. And you see kids react the exact opposite way when their coach immediately just acts like the game is over after a few mistakes, after they get down, and that's it. And he's just chewing everyone out and not giving any sort of, we prep for this. We did this. We're prepared. We're built this way. We're these dudes. We can do this. There was none of that. They were done. They got punched at, like, point blank. What I saw was a team get punched in the fucking mouth and have no answer for it. Because again, it's not about wins and losses, Jack. I need a team full of dogs. You look at what Deion's doing in Colorado. Them boys are walking with a swagger about them. Is that not a direct reflection? The Jets as well. They lose their quarterback and come right back in. They lose
their starting quarterback, the guy the big.
They had every right to have a funeral on that sideline, Jackie.
Yeah, and they kept playing and they won the fucking game.
But Jack, that's my point. Again, quickly finishing the Colorado point, we know what Dion brings to the table. We know what Coach Prime brings to the table. That motherfucker is swaggy. He's going to come in with confidence, and look at the way his players are walking and talking and acting. We haven't seen them necessarily get punched in the mouth just yet, even though I know in week 1 it was a really good game that they pulled off. But like, the way that they're moving now shows me that they're ready. They're dogs. They got dogs on that team. I need that. If Eberflus's hits principle doesn't have a dog in it, what is the point? What are they hitting?
Yeah. I mean, it gives a lot of credence to the people who were making fun of the whole hits thing. You and I, kind of whatever about that.
Yeah, it was what it was.
It's silly. People were kind of taking it a little bit too seriously. But listen, if it's not translating, it's just not translating.
Isn't the eye intensity?
It's no turnovers, right? That was the T. Not even close to a turnover. They didn't come close. To doing anything.
I mean, and that's
us being smart. They played like idiots.
But
they had some really dumb fucking penalties, Frank.
So
and listen to your point about the sideline thing. That was what was frustrating for me about Brisker. He's like, the fans got to stay in it. It's like, dude, talk to your own fucking team.
Y'all weren't
in
it, yeah.
Yeah, Cody Whitehair has been on this team the longest. He's got to be talking to guys. But guess what? Cody Whitehair's experienced so much fucking losing. He's probably just like, just another fucking day, I guess.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, man, Justin can't be looking like that. Somebody has to stand up and be like, guys, the game's not fucking over. But it just speaks to the disappointment of week 1, and you just nothing's going right.
Yep.
It just looked bad. It was a all around terrible look.
Yeah, and Jack, I didn't watch much of Hard Knocks, but there was a really cool clip from Robert Saleh. It was a quick 15-second clip, and he was like, you know what? The biggest insult to me as a head coach was when we would lose a game these last couple years, and then the opposing head coach would shake my hand and say, man, you got those boys playing hard. And he finished off by saying, fuck you. I don't want that. I don't want to be playing hard. We expect results this year. We expect to win this year. I don't care about that. I don't care about that, oh, you knew you played the Jets bullshit. That was his sentiment. You know what I mean? Of like, oh yeah, they won 5 games, but boy, they're sure playing hard. But Jack, I understood why he said that, because you unravel that and it's, hey, I know my boys are playing hard because my scheme fucking works and I got these boys into position to actually make plays. We just didn't necessarily have the talent yet. Now we have the talent to back that up. We don't even have this first portion. Who's shaking Eberflus's hand and saying, oh, you got those boys playing real hard. Y'all are a year away. When has that happened? Especially on the defensive side of the ball, because we talked about the offensive explosion last year, and the defense was losing games by giving up 30 plus every fucking time when our offense was outscoring the special teams as well. The offense was outscoring some of these offenses. So it's like, even from that standpoint, where is that eye? Where is that intensity? Where are the dogs? I don't mind, not that I want anyone to get hurt, but like if there's a late hit because you're trying to play through the whistle, like where are the dogs here? The only one that I saw was Tyreek Stevenson, and that's a fucking rookie. That's not coming from Matt Eberflus. He's just built that way. You know what I'm saying? Like we drafted him that way. He didn't get a chance to develop that yet. Like that's just the dog that he has inside of him. That's how we made it to the NFL.
I didn't love the hiring when it was announced. You can go back and check the tape. And listen, again, I'm not saying it's over for Eberflus. Could still work. But the Bears they have this habit of hiring guys that don't have that head coach. Like we're always trying to find the diamond in the rough. And by we, I mean the Bears organization. I don't want to take credit for when they make mistakes. But it just, there is something to just like understanding the trend of the league. And it's just like Matt Nagy was so different to anything that they had tried before. So they just had to pivot so hard back the other way to something they were comfortable with the cover 2 and the guy, from the Lovie Smith school. Like the league has changed, man. Like follow the trends. Look at Indianapolis. Look at Philadelphia, man. Like, yeah, I know the Colts lost, but dude, Shane Steichen made Anthony Richardson look infinitely better than what I had expected him to look like in week 1.
Yeah.
Like, just why are other teams able to figure this out? And it's just constant with the Bears, where it's just that the offense just looks disjointed. Nothing looks right. Your hits principle doesn't mean jack shit because it doesn't do anything. You just gave up 31 points to your biggest rival against a guy making his second start.
Yep. And again, Jackie,
it's mind-blowingly dumb how bad the Bears were.
Agreed. But to your biggest point, Jack, because again, I don't want to make grand proclamations, because if we reel off 5 wins, we would sound silly. And I'm going to repeat that, and people are going to get annoyed with me, but it is what it is. But I think you made the perfect point that could probably wrap us up and we get into our picks. It's not that the season's over. It's not, it's not saying, oh, you got to fire him. But there are still questions that haven't been answered. Point blank, period. And again, to my point, we have the right to be upset in this moment.
Yes.
Because again, it's not about wins and losses. Like, you can't feel this is your second year. You bring in more weapons, just like you said. This roster is an improved roster from last year. You can't come in and be incompetent. That's unacceptable. No. Losing the game, okay, it is what it is. But to look incompetent, that's not acceptable.
That's red flags, because guess what? We've seen that.
Yep.
We've seen that a lot recently.
And I want to say this too, though, Jack. Our fucking video that I titled is "Could Eberflus be on the hot seat?" has a negative like to dislike ratio, and you bozos better go back and take that back. You switch those over to likes, because we're not fucking stupid. We weren't fucking making some clickbait bullshit. Jack brought up these issues last year about how conservative that he was and making these dumbass decisions. And we talked about Luke Getsy all last year. With more talent, if this continues to happen, that's why we brought that up in the world that continued to happen even with more talent. Because his job isn't safe if it looks like this the whole year.
Yeah. And I bet a lot of people would swing towards that pendulum of him being probably on the hot seat.
Yeah.
A lot more people than they would have been before week 1.
Yeah, we weren't talking out of our ass, and we weren't advocating for his job to be taken, but it's just like we were just exploring the idea.
And I think unfortunately we were on to some. I would have loved to have been wrong.
Yeah.
I would have loved for this team to have come out just on fire, looking like just absolute world beaters, or just better. And they didn't look better. They looked worse. And that's what's really frustrating. Again, against the guy making his second fucking start. This is the first. We've been waiting. Bears fans have been waiting for Aaron Rodgers to go away. He's had the retirement stuff. He's had the old age. He's all this stuff. He's finally gone. And the Packers still dropped 31 points on you.
Yep.
Because the Packers are a good organization and the Bears are not.
Yes.
Simple as that.
That's what it comes down to.
Let's get to our week 2 picks.
Let's do it.
Where we'll talk about Bears Tampa Bay at the end here. So starting with the Thursday night game. By the way, I had a rough first week. And to be expected, if I'm being honest. I was not surprised. I saw you like my tweet where it's just week 1 is always just so sloppy. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
Yep.
But Minnesota going to Philadelphia for a Thursday night game. I really like this matchup. But I'm going to go with Philly. They did nothing in New England to make me think that they're not going to be good again. Minnesota obviously struggled at home. That defense is going to have some problems. So I'm going Philly.
I'm going Philly as well, and I think Jalen Hurts gets back on track. He didn't look the greatest in week 1. I'm going Philly as well.
Baltimore at Cincinnati, 2 teams that looked kind of rough, if I'm being honest with you. Like you said, Lamar Jackson didn't have a good game. Joe Burrow did not either, of course. But so I am actually going to go. I'm going with the road team here. I'm going Baltimore. I'm going to need Cincinnati to sort of show me something. I think Baltimore's defense. Listen, we saw a lot of issues that Cincinnati offense had with that Cleveland defense. The Ravens defense is going to be pretty good too. So I'm going to go with Baltimore on the road.
I'm going to go with the Bengals, and I don't feel confident either way. But the Bengals defense looked really good into the fourth quarter as well. It just sort of to unravel because they couldn't stay off the field. I'm going Bengals, but I'm not confident about it, Jack.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. Big money Burrow decided to fucking do. I think what did T. Higgins have? Like 8 targets, like no catches or something like that.
He dropped the donut, yeah.
Yeah, that was a little rough. Seattle at Detroit. props to you for picking Detroit to go into Kansas City and win that one. I continue to disrespect Dan Quinn, and not Dan Quinn,
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell, and he continues to tell me to shut the fuck up. So I'm going to roll with him this week. I'm going Detroit because Seattle looked a little disjointed. I saw that. I think this is like the first home game that Detroit has sold out in like
wow
40 years or something like that.
That's insane.
It's not that long. But yeah, they sold out Ford Field, so it's gonna be quite the environment. I think Detroit will win this one.
I'm going Detroit as well.
Indianapolis at Houston. Give me Indy. I thought Anthony Richardson played a lot better than I expected him to.
He did.
So that was encouraging, and the Texans looked about as you'd expect.
Yeah, listen, it's one game, so again, grand proclamations, throw them out the window, but the Texans may be the worst team in the league when we thought it was going to be the Cardinals, and Cardinals looked much better than I thought they would in week 1. So I'm going Colts.
We did talk about that when we were making our picks, where it's like there's always going to be that one team that you're like they're getting stopped, and then of course they make it a little bit closer than it should be, and that sort of just had that feel to it. Chicago, Tampa Bay, we'll save that for the last conversation. Kansas City at Jacksonville, which should be a really, really fun game. I'm going Kansas City in a bounce back game. Travis Kelce should be playing. Jacksonville didn't look all that great. I mean, outside of Calvin Ridley. But yeah, I'm going Kansas City.
Calvin Ridley looked really fucking good. I'm going Chiefs. Because the Chiefs defense looks solid. Now Chris Jones is back. Sign him to his big contract. He'll be there. Yeah. Travis Kelce's back. Yeah, I think they bounce back and get a dub.
Green Bay at Atlanta. Give me Green Bay.
Yeah, give me Green Bay. And the one thing, again, that I'm really intrigued about, I talked about this in the preview show. All offseason, it's been, hey, now LaFleur gets to run his offense. It looked good. The system looks solid. And again, like, if I was telling my friend who's a Packers fan, like, if you at the end of the year have to debate, well, is Jordan Love really good or it's Matt LaFleur? That's the scenario you want to be in. Like, who the fuck, as a fan, because as a fan, who cares? Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care who you think is better than the other. Like, if we're winning and, we're putting up numbers on offense, I don't know. The Falcons just still, I know they won, but they just don't, they have too many.
Oh, man. I was going to say, talk about not using your best players. That team would drive me crazy. And Desmond Ridder,
yeah,
I was higher on him than most, and I don't know if we're gonna see. I just thought the weapons he had would make him look better, but you kind of have to use those weapons.
Yep.
And, Bijan Robinson not playing as much as it just.
Yeah, but I'm going Green Bay.
Yeah, and props to Matt LaFleur. I know this show has kind of talked about maybe he needs to prove himself a little bit as well. I think he did. I thought I really like the adjustments that he made in getting Aaron Jones the football a little bit more. That's what I want to see from our coaches. The adjustments that just
it was common sense, Jackie. It was common sense coaching. It's not I'm not acting like he did anything Kyle Shanahan-esque, but this is what good coaches do. They do common sense shit, and that's what he did. It was great.
He got receivers involved that would probably not be starting for the Bears.
Yep.
So just gonna leave that there. Raiders 1-0 at Buffalo 0-1. I'm not even gonna try Buffalo. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo has to bounce back. Listen, I had to take, and I'm gonna get it off on the pod. I'm not gonna delve too deep into it, but Josh Allen is more like Jay Cutler than I think people.
I saw the conversations happening on Twitter that
and it was in a group chat that you weren't in.
Yeah.
I think Jay would have looked like that if he had a more competent offense around him that let him just sling it like that. Josh Allen makes some boneheaded plays, but then he'll also make a play where it's like, wow, he's like one of 3 players in the league that can do that.
The Jets have his number. The Jets have his number.
They do.
Let's be real. So, and he even said it. I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he went up against a bad defense. Robert Saleh knows how to build a defense, knows how to run a defense.
And the Raiders just, I don't know, do anything that special to me.
They did. That was an ugly game.
Teams. Yeah. Oh, that was something I wanted to touch on a little bit earlier. I couldn't remember. I was drawing a blank. They really have Cincinnati playing 2 straight division games to start the season.
That's gross. Yep.
That's rough.
They do. It is.
That's rough. I don't like that.
I don't either.
I'm not a fan of that. at all.
I don't like division games for week 4. You know where I stand on it. I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. Chargers at Tennessee. Chargers. I guess better quarterback.
Yeah,
but it's not something I feel super super confident in.
I do. Ryan Tannehill was ass. That was a bad game.
But that defense looks pretty good.
They did, but they weren't playing the Chargers though. Chargers offense looks solid.
Listen, Nuke might go nuclear against that Chargers pass defense because goddamn, that was.
He might get open against that Chargers pass defense, but I don't know if he's in that game.
Will we see Malik Willis?
No, not in week 2. I think Tannehill has like a 6-week leash.
If you're the Jets, are you calling Tennessee? Are you saying give me Tannehill?
I might be. If I'm the Jets, I might be calling Dallas. Is Trey Lance available? I'll give you you gave up a 4th, I'll give you a 3rd. Okay. Are they going to stick with Zach Wilson for 17 games?
We'll talk about them when we get to their game. San Francisco at the Rams. This is the first 3:05 afternoon game. Give me San Francisco. I know the Rams won. And like we talked about, Puka Nacua. I mean, just talk about dogs. That dude was running his mouth against that Seahawks defense, and I kind of loved it. Matt Stafford looked really good. Tutu Atwell. Maybe developing into something. Makes you kind of wonder, is Cooper Kupp really all that good? Or is he a system wide receiver?
Is he a fucking system receiver? Listen.
No. Give me the Rams. Give me the
Niners.
49%.
I'm taking the Niners as well. And again, just looking at that Rams team, those are, you couldn't pay people on the street to identify these. And no disrespect to them. I'm just saying, like, you have to know, you have to be in Dynasty. You have to know things about the league to know these guys. And that's what good coaches do. They make their players look better than maybe what they are. Or they let me not say that. That's disrespectful. They put them in positions to succeed. And that's what they did. But I'm going Niners though.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it'll be fun. So like I talked about, Puka Nacua, who I traded a 2nd round pick for. People gave me a bunch of shit for it. Fuck you. 15 targets.
Yep.
When does DJ Moore hit that number?
By week 5. In total, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, week 5.
5th round rookie. 15 targets. All right. Woo. Real quick, Brock Purdy. Shout out to Brock Purdy, man. Like coming back from Tommy John, and I mean he looked good.
He did.
It's pretty wild how Kyle Shanahan can just take any quarterback and just besides Trey Lance. Apparently.
Yeah, except for Trey.
The Giants at Arizona. The
Giants got to bounce back. Giants. There's no fucking way.
Yeah.
What a fucking game that! My God, that was crazy.
I didn't even watch a single second, and I don't regret it.
I watched the first quarter and didn't watch anything else. I saw all I needed to see.
Paid that guy that money.
That wasn't. Listen, I love me some Daniel Jones hate. That offensive line was. I didn't think it can get much worse than the Bears, but my God.
But the Giants, they also still have one of the worst wide receiver. They have a terrible wide receiver group. And they didn't really do a whole lot. They have slot receivers.
Well, hypothetically, Darren Waller. They're trying to get the Darren Waller to be Travis Kelce effect type of thing. That may work over a year. Who knows? He's
gonna get hurt, like he always does. All right, Jets at Dallas, 2 of the biggest teams that were talked about. Should have been a fun game. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers, Leonard Floyd. I don't want to say shout out because I don't really love when guys get hurt. It's Aaron Rodgers. That's all I'll say.
Do you think?
Shout out Leonard Floyd.
Do you think he's trusting modern medicine with his surgery?
I was saying he's pops some ivermectin.
Yeah,
he'll be back.
Yeah, get immunized.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah,
darkness retreat.
Certainly, he doesn't trust surgeons. And amnesia or anesthesia.
Man, how fucking lucky are Packers fans gonna get? Can we just talk about this for a second?
No, come on, Jackie. We're not that. No. We're not delving down that road. I'm just saying, take your pick.
He finally leaves and boom, he gets hurt. Like, what is this? Give me Dallas. Not even
Yeah, I'm going Dallas
fucking,
as well.
People talking about Zach Wilson like he did anything last night. Dude, Zach Wilson won it up. Get the fuck out of here. The defense
Brees
did
Hall.
literally everything.
Brees Hall looks
and guess
fucking
what?
good.
Brees Hall looks really good, and they also have a top 5 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson. That touchdown catch that he made,
That was crazy.
where he basically played defense,
Yep.
and then caught the touchdown, absolutely insane. But that offensive line is really bad, and Zach Wilson's going to get killed.
I mean,
Micah Parsons
even
might.
listen. I would say even
might
if they
kill
were good, Micah Parsons, he's the best. He's the best defensive player in football. I think I'm comfortable saying that.
Yeah, he's this could get ugly.
Yep.
Let's just say that Dallas should win this one pretty easily. Washington at Denver, just a gross game, just all around. There's nothing to like about here.
Listen.
I'm going Denver because they're at home. But man, all of the Sean Payton stuff, people going crazy.
I didn't get a chance to watch too much of that game, but everyone said like, oh, Russ looked a little better than last year. Maybe they're cooking something up. And I looked at the score, and they scored 16 points.
Even the Bears scored
that, but that's just
points.
what Russell Wilson does at this point. He scores 16 points.
But that was the funny thing is that I saw people talking about him.
That's what I'm saying.
Stats cooking. If I have to see Russell Wilson cooking one more fucking time,
yeah.
it's played out, man. And Washington, dude, people were talking about Sam Howell. Like, okay,
he had a bad first half. He didn't look.
He looks like a 5th round pick.
Yeah,
like, he looks like a guy.
Listen, I'm going Washington though.
I'm going Denver.
I'm going Washington.
All right, Miami at New England. You got the Sunday night game. Should be a pretty good one. Give me New England. I'm going to go New England at home. I still think there's something to the effect of Bill Belichick having an answer for Tua. Although Tua looked good, but again, he had these games last year where it's like he would
just go off.
He puts up stats. I don't know though. New England at home, and not for nothing, the offense for New England looked a lot better. In
the second half, it did. Yeah, they looked competent.
Was getting some things working,
and that defense looked fucking vicious.
Give me New England at home.
Oh man, I don't know. I went back and forth with this one because part of me feels like I know you're right. Bill B had, and that's where I think I'm leaning. I think I'm gonna pick the Patriots, but I'm also like, if the Dolphins do catch a rhythm, Mac Jones can't keep up with him. I don't think Mac Jones can keep up with that offense. But I do think Bill B stops them from getting there. I'm going Patriots in a close one.
If the Dolphins win this game and win it decidedly, I might not pick against the Dolphins the rest of the year.
Ooh. Wow.
Depending on
I was just gonna say you don't even know the rest of the schedule and you're making that.
Nope. Yep, making that proclamation. And not sticking to it. Basically backing off instantly.
You coward! You fucking coward!
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about that. New Orleans at Carolina, 2 Monday night games, which was weird. They didn't do the 2 Monday night games this year. They
I don't know why they're. I don't like that. I don't. Just give me a Tuesday game at this point. Like, what? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, New Orleans at Carolina. Give me New Orleans, but again, I don't feel all that confident.
I don't either. Bryce Young looked okay. He looked okay. I mean, it's his first game. That's what I mean. Okay for your first game as a rookie quarterback is good.
Yeah. Yeah, Derek Carr looked like Derek Carr.
Yeah. Yeah, give me New Orleans.
Yeah. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Yeah, so the Kenny Pickett stuff, huh? Oops. You know what? He's still the best quarterback of that draft class. He's still the best quarterback of that draft class. All right. All right.
Ooh,
give me that at least.
He is. Hey, listen, that was bad.
I'll tell you what. If there is a candidate for an offensive coordinator that would piss me off more than Luke Getsy, it's Matt Canada. That offense is just gross. And is it just me or does Najee Harris look like just slow? Like he just looks slow. Deontay Johnson's hurt. And
Deontay Johnson's always hurt.
Give me Cleveland to win this game easily. I liked what Cleveland did against Cincinnati. I like that. I like what I saw.
I liked it
Although
in the
Deshaun
second half,
Watson
but it looked bad though to me.
He still
Listen,
he has the low throw disease still.
I know
He's
it's
still
weird.
throwing everything low.
Yeah. That Steelers defense still look all right. I'm going with
TJ
the.
Watt
He's fucking incredible. I'm going with the Steelers. I think Steelers bounce back.
Okay.
All right, Jackie.
Well, let's wrap up.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just saying I don't even have much to say. I just goddamn.
We gotta talk about it.
I know, Jack, but this okay. This is my take. If the Bears defense allows Baker Mayfield to fucking do whatever he wants, like they did to Jordan Love in the second half, I'm out on Eberflus. I know I don't like grand proclamations, but come the fuck on, dude.
Wow.
There's no way they let Baker, because they don't have the greatest run game. Rachaad White is okay. They don't have Aaron Jones.
No, they do not. They do not have a skill player that's anywhere close to Aaron Jones. And I like Mike Evans and I like Chris Godwin, but they're not.
But even that level of impact, the way that the Bears are built, they can't take advantage of a porous run defense, at least on paper.
Yeah. If Rachaad White and Sean Tucker rush for over 200 yards against you,
yeah,
I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you on that. But I'm going Bears. And here, let's say this. I'll say this. I'm hoping that we get a repeat of 2018 when the Bears went into Tampa.
That would be nice.
And Mitch Trubisky had his career game. Here's what I'm looking for, Frank. I'm looking for, I truthfully I don't really care about the defense. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I want to see what that offense does. I want to see what adjustments that they make. If they're still going horizontal, if they're still doing the bubble screens, and they're still not moving the pocket, and they're not taking advantage of their best player that they traded the first overall pick for, it's going to be a long week.
Yeah, I mean, step one is going to be all on Getsy. I would much rather feel comfortable saying, look, I like what his vision was. I like the plays that he drew up and Justin just didn't execute, versus the opposite way, where I felt like Justin played solid and the play calling as a whole was holding the offense back. The Tampa Bay defense it's not scary. So if he coaches scared again, we have a problem. Again, Jair Alexander, really good player. They have good linebackers. They have a good pass rush in Green Bay. So if you want to give the benefit of the doubt, offensive line is bad and he had to play a little more concerned. Okay, you do that. I won't, but I'm just saying, like, those who want to, okay. This is the game that he has to show me more. There's no way.
The last thing I'll say, are you picking the Bears?
I'm picking Tampa. The Bears have to prove to me that they can win games.
I like it. I don't hate it. All right, last thing I'll say. I'm not asking for 9 catches, 150 yards from DJ Moore like Justin Jefferson had.
I have him in fantasy leagues, Jackie. I'm asking for 9 for 150.
I do too, but let's be realistic about what we should expect.
3 for 40.
Jordan Addison, their first round pick, had 4 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown from 6 targets. At minimum, that's what DJ Moore's stat line should look like.
Look at what we have to do as Chicago Bears fans, Jack. We have a phenomenal talent at receiver, and we're saying we need a rookie. The
match rookie production. I know.
I hate being a Chicago fan. I do.
I know, and I apologize to my son after the game.
You just let him know that
I'm sorry.
You let him know that Patrick Williams is taking that step this year, baby. See red.
I'm not gonna lie, it took me a second to know who you were talking about. That's how out I am on that fucking team.
Oh.
Anyways, we appreciate you guys listening to the Bear With Us podcast. Hopefully we'll be back talking about a Bears W against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Frank does not seem all that confident, and I can't say I blame him. If you guys feel differently, please let us know in the comments. Let us know who you're picking. What are your thoughts on Luke Getsy, on Matt Eberflus, Alan Williams, the whole squad? We appreciate you guys listening. As always, we will talk to you next week. Frankie, we're out of here.
Later, Jackie. Later, everybody.
Everybody love everybody!